This review was made possible by contributions from viewers like you.
Hey guys, let's talk about Wonder Woman. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet. No, today we're going to talk about her very first comic appearance. All-Star Comics number 8. Released on December 31st, 1941, this comic would herald in the new year with a new breed of superheroine. Wonder Woman, the Amazon Princess, the champion of truth. While she was hardly the first female superhero, she would be the first superheroine to headline her own comic book, and rise to the same ranks in popularity and cultural impact as Batman and Superman, becoming the third tier in the DC Trinity. Wait a minute, why didn't they just give Batman vs. Superman that title? Trinity. I mean, it's not just about Batman and Superman fighting, it's about these three heroes coming together to save the day. And Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice? That just sounds like there are going to be more Batman vs. Superman movies, and God knows we don't need any more of those. Anyway, before the comic begins, I gotta point out something on the cover here. This comic cost only 10 cents back in the day, or roughly $1.66 when adjusted for inflation. The length of the comic is 70 pages. Comics of today cost 2 or 3 times that amount. You're lucky if you get half the length of content, and you're guaranteed significantly more ads. Not to mention, these older comics all told self-contained stories. I don't know what goes into the process of publishing mainstream comics these days, but if comic companies want to attract new readers, they need to go back to making comics like this. More material for the price, and write them as done-in-ones so potential new readers aren't intimidated by decades of backstory they know nothing about. Would they be able to turn a profit with comics that are twice as long and only half the price? Well, if Suicide Squad could make back its budget, I'm sure anything's possible. Anyway, the bulk of the comic is about the continuing adventures of the Justice Society of America, which is what the DCEU should have started with. But since we're here to talk about Wonder Woman, I'm just going to take us to her story at the end of the book. We open on a semi-splash page of the tiny-footed Wonder Woman running around in a circle. At last, in a world torn by the hatred and wars of men, appears a woman to whom the problems and feats of men are mere child's play. At least they might be if she knew what those problems and feats were. A woman whose identity is known to none, but whose sensational feats are outstanding in a fast-moving world. She can run around in circles endlessly for hours. With 100 times the agility and strength of our best male athletes and strongest wrestlers, she appears as though from nowhere to avenge an injustice or right a wrong. And if she can't right a wrong, you can be damn well sure she'll avenge it. As lovely as Aphrodite, as wise as Athena, with the speed of Mercury and the strength of Hercules, she is known only as Wonder Woman. She tried naming herself Maha after the aforementioned Greek gods, but then she was sued by Shazam for stealing his shtick. But who she is or whence she came, nobody knows. Not a good sign when not even the narrator knows what's going on. Our story opens on a plane about to crash onto an uncharted island from lack of gasoline. Great, we've got the lowest lane of pilots. Who flies across the ocean without a full tank of gas? 2 women in pleated skirts and leather bras see the plane crash. Look, Princess, a strange plane! As opposed to the familiar planes that are flying around this isolated jungle paradise. They rush to help the pilot, who's been hurt in the crash. Princess, it's...
Monty Python, the Flying Circus.
A man! A man on Paradise Island! I have no idea what a man is, but I'm keeping it. She effortlessly carries the pilot through the jungle and into a city that looks like it's straight out of ancient Greece, where, of course, they have a perfectly up-to-date 1940s hospital. The princess asks if he'll be okay, but they won't know for a few days. Then her mother, Queen
Hippolyte.
rather unceremoniously enters the room. Ah, the Golden Age. The days when meaningful composition took a backseat to things just happening. Decades later, some hippie extremist entering a room would demand a lot more respect than the frickin' queen who is as old as time itself. By the way, I know we shouldn't laugh at people from other cultures just because of their clothes, but really? Does this look regal to you? It looks like she's wearing Madonna's cone bra and Lady Gaga's meat dress. The equally professional-looking doctor finds some papers in the man's pocket, which identify him as Captain Steve Trevor of the U.S. Army Intelligence Service. Because, of course, they know how to read English. The Queen orders his plane to be repaired. You know, when they take a break from hunting with wooden spears. And she also orders Steve to remain blindfolded for as long as he's on the island. The princess helps in his recovery however she can, and the doctor can't help but notice how inexplicably fixated she is on the stranger. So, she's in love. I was afraid of that. Wonder Woman! The feminist icon that proves you can fall in love at first sight. I shall take steps immediately. Start making some popcorn. My daughter and I have a lot of Hallmark Channel to binge watch. Yeah, the princess falling in love with Steve is pretty damn sporadic when you think about it. It'll be revealed later on that she had no idea that her Amazon sisters were once slaves of men, so she wasn't raised to be distrusting of them. She's been surrounded by women her entire life, so she shouldn't have any idea of what a man even is. Really, the only way that she could immediately fall in love with this guy is the same way that any woman would immediately fall in love with a cute little puppy. Oh my god, you are so adorable! I'm keeping you! Keeping me? Look, lady, I'm not something you could just keep. I'm a soldier in the U.S. Air Force. Oh, I know you are. You're such a tough little soldier. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. The princess, who I'm suddenly noticing has yet to be addressed by her name in this comic, is confused by why she's forbidden to see Steve, and her mother explains in a little prose story. It was common practice in comics of the day to have little stories like this among the other stories told in sequential art, but I don't think they incorporated these text stories into the comic stories very often. Huh. Wonder Woman's breaking down barriers not only between the sexes, but between literary practices too. Nice. And this is the startling story unfolded by Hippolyte, Queen of the Amazons, to the princess, her daughter. Do you think she begins all of her explanations like that?
Mommy, why is the sky blue?
And this is the startling story unfolded by Hippolyte, Queen of the Amazons, to the princess, her daughter. She explains that everything was sunshine and rainbows until Hercules assembled an army to conquer the Amazons and make them his slaves. The queen was able to defeat their captors with the help of a magic girdle given to her from Aphrodite. Okay. Then they set sail for an island on which they were instructed by Aphrodite to create a new society completely isolated from the world of man. Apparently, this magic girdle also helps them live forever, but only if they continue to remain separated from the outside world, hence the queen's eagerness to get Steve Trevor off the island. She then proceeds to show the princess this magic sphere she's heard her talk about. 1. That's a disc, not a sphere. 2. She's never brought this thing up before now. Apparently, this magic giant quarter was given to her by Athena. Huh. You think it was Athena that gave Batman his giant penny? The purpose of this magic not sphere is to help the queen know everything going on in the world, and sometimes even predict the future. So, the gods wanted you to be completely separated from the rest of the world, but then they drop this thing in your lap, which makes you so aware of what's going on in the world that you can also predict the future? Why? That is why we Amazons have been able to far suppress the inventions of the so-called man-made civilizations. We are not only wiser and stronger than men, but our weapons are better, our flying machines are further advanced. And it is through the knowledge that I have gained from this magic sphere that I have taught you, my daughter, all the arts and sciences and languages of modern as well as ancient times. Oh boy, the questions that this raises. What is the point of remaining isolationist while still being completely aware of what's going on with the rest of the world? One could argue that it might come in handy if they're in danger of being discovered by man's world, but if that ever became an issue, why couldn't the Greek goddesses warn them beforehand? Why wouldn't they be able to foresee Steve Trevor's arrival and be more prepared to deal with his injuries and get him off the island even more quickly? Why would they even bother patching him up in the first place when it'd be easier to just kill him for the sake of keeping their island a secret? Why would they separate themselves from the rest of society but keep up with society on a technological level? They're trying to avoid war, so they build weapons and planes that are better than anything else in the world right now? The Amazons have steered clear of any conflicts for centuries. Why do they think they'll need this kind of tech instead of remaining where they were ages ago? Why would they invent planes if they have no desire to travel anywhere?
It just raises too many questions.
The Queen then uses the Not-Sphere to look at Steve's backstory, and how he wound up on the island.
Couldn't you just ask him how he got there?
In the not-too-distant past,
Somewhere in time and space.
Steve received some information that could lead to the capture of a ring of spies. Instead of setting a trap for them where they'll end up being, Steve thinks he can capture them just by hopping onto their car while it's still driving.
Somehow Lois Lane is watching this and thinking, ooh, I should try that sometime.
So yeah, that goes as well as can be expected. Instead of just shooting him and getting it over with, the spies strap him into the cockpit of an American robot plane that they stole earlier and use it to bomb one of the local airfields. Because they're counting on people on the ground seeing Steve inside the plane and passing him off as a patsy? Steve eventually regains consciousness and takes control of the plane. He decides to take down the plane that's been remotely controlling him, and he chases them until eventually running out of gas, leading us to the predicament at the beginning of the story. The Queen needs to talk with Aphrodite and Athena for what she should do with Steve, and the princess thinks that it would be no problem for her to fly him back to America herself. Upon speaking to the goddesses, the Queen is instructed to send her strongest Amazon to accompany Steve back to America so that she can fight for the survival of the world's last citadel for democracy and equal rights for women.
Oh yeah. Even though women's rights weren't exactly what they could have been back in 1941, the gods are still singing America's praises.
America! Fuck yeah!
She organizes a tournament to determine which of these Amazons is worthy of this mission. Naturally, her daughter wants to participate, but she's forbidden to since the winner of the tournament can never return home.
Why not?
The tournament begins not long afterwards, and no one thinks it's a little strange that one of the Amazons attending is wearing a mask, and despite her standing in the very front row, the Queen does not recognize her.
How convenient.
Amazons 7 and 12 are the only two to pass the test of speed, so it's up to the final test called Bullets and Bracelets, which sounds like they're going to shoot some kind of film noir movie. No, instead they're going to shoot these rather Flash Gordon-looking pistols at each other, and they need to block the bullets with their bracelets. Yeah, we're used to seeing Wonder Woman wearing gauntlets that take up most of the length of her forearms, but in this comic, they were bracelets that look like eye watches. So number 12 fires all of her bullets, and number 7 blocks every single one of them. Number 7 fires her bullets, and number 12 is taken down by the first shot. Wah, wah. The Queen declares number 7 the winner, and asks that she remove her mask. But surprise, it's her daughter! And with only 2 panels left in this comic to go, that's still all that the Queen can call her.
Did her mother just forget the name of her one and only child?
She reluctantly accepts her daughter's victory and says that she will indeed go to America to be their Wonder Woman. Let yourself be known as Diana, after your godmother, the goddess of the moon. So she couldn't think of a name for her daughter until just now? I know you're timeless and eternal, Queenie, but you really couldn't think of something a little faster? And here is a costume I've designed to be used by the winner to wear in America. That doesn't look very practical for combat purposes. Sweetheart, I'm wearing traffic cones and giant strips of bacon. We Amazons are anything but practical. And so, Diana, the Wonder Woman, giving up her heritage and her right to eternal life.
She gave up her eternal life? Major plot hole in Batman v Superman.
Leaves Paradise Island to take the man she loves back to America.
It'd be too easy to just let the man that she loves stay on Paradise Island, but, you know, her mom's on this whole wall kick right now, make Paradise Island great again or something, I don't know.
America, the land she learns to love and protect, and adopts as her own. And they show us how she learns to love and protect America by, just standing around. Not protecting or loving anything. Okay.
So that was All-Star Comics number 8. And it's alright, but it's not without its faults.
The basic story of Steve Trevor crashing into Paradise Island and inspiring Wonder Woman to help save the world is okay, And it's kind of funny seeing Steve be the man in a refrigerator long before the women in refrigerators trope was coined, or even really all that exploited. But it's the details where things get a little rocky. Steve's unconscious throughout his entire stay on the island, so Diana really has no reason to fall in love with him beyond, hey, he's hot, I want to do him. The story really would have benefited from Steve and Diana actually talking for a while, not only so she could like him as a person, but also so she'd learn of the war going on and she'd be inspired to leave the island for greater reasons than she just wants to help this guy she's hot for. The logistics of an ancient Greek civilization also being technologically superior to the rest of the world is more than a little head-tilting, as is the Amazons' understanding of flight technology when they're supposed to be completely isolationist. Why would they want to fly when there's nowhere in the world they would want to go? If they want to fly just for the hell of it, I'd have an easier time believing that they'd have stables full of winged horses. We don't see Diana's origin of being born from clay, which may be the most symbolic aspect of her entire character, since she doesn't need a man to even exist, nor do we see her learn how to use her signature weapon, the Lasso of Truth. The tournament does a good job of showing us how fast she is, but if the opening narration is going to tell us that she's 100 times stronger than our best athletes, we need to see that. Maybe she could lift Steve's plane over her head like it was nothing and casually toss it into the air to try to get it to fly. I don't know, we need something to show off how strong she is. As an origin story for the most iconic superheroine of all time, this doesn't really feel like it understood the gravitas that a character like this would have. I'm just glad that future writers would eventually iron out the kinks in Wonder Woman, because she's an icon that had to happen. It's because of her that we have a DCEU that only mostly sucks instead of entirely sucks. See you later.
Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman. All the world's waiting for you and the power you possess. In your satin tights, fighting for your rights, and the old red, white, and blue. Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman. Now the world is ready for you and the wonders you can do. Make a honky dove, stop a war with love, make a liar tell it true. Wonder Woman, get us out from under, Wonder Woman. All our hopes are pinned upon you and the magic that you do. Stop a bullet cold, make the axis fold, change their minds and change the world. Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman, you're a Wonder Woman.
She's only a foot taller than me. How is she carrying me in her purse?
Subscribe, like, follow.